I've been sick my whole life. From the time I was born, the doctors yanking me out with forceps, to having twisted hips, wearing special shoes, being in pain my whole life. I grew 9 inches in 3 months.
Wow.
And then I was walking in a parking lot and a car ran over me. Then after a silver amalgam filling when I was 20 years old, I became allergic to everything, had candida, thyroid issues, psoriasis, just couldn't think. I was a mess. And so I just had this underlying feeling that if my body had what it needed, that it should work, that I don't have to be, trapped into these medications forever.
All right, everybody. Hey, it's Dr. Rimka, and I have a very special guest with me today. If you've seen any of my videos on Instagram or Facebook, you'll often notice I'm sweating and I'm in a kind of a red glow. It's because I'm in my sauna pretty much every single day at this point. I love heat stress therapy, and this is the woman who's made my life so much better with her incredible sauna. That is my absolute favorite. And I've gone on and on in many videos about why I like this sauna better than any sauna I've ever had or ever used. And why I always tell you, it is worth you making this investment to have something in your home that's a powerful healing tool. So this is Eileen Durfee. Please say hi. And again, people who know me will know why, but we're going to break down this sauna. Well, even just sauna therapy, Eileen, like why people should get in the heat.
Right.
And then we'll break down maybe the different types of saunas and go with what makes you unique and why they should consider, getting a sauna and looking at your brand.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. We've talked on the phone. I've seen all your wonderful posts and, you really engage with your followers. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And part of why you see me doing that is that sauna helped recover me from a really bad round of mold illness. And it was critical. It was a critical tool that helped get me back on top. So, thank you for making a very good product that was very affordable and highly effective and non-toxic. Like that's the thing people have to understand. Sometimes they're poisoning themselves inside these saunas. And so that's the thing they don't think about. So tell them the name of your company and let's talk about what got you into the heat, let's say. I think you have your own story around this.
Yeah. Creatrix Solutions is my company, because I'm always creating things. I've been a gizmo woman forever. And with my background in nuclear power plant quality engineering and everything, it's like I go to sleep like my father does, who's a machinist and an engineer and stuff. And, we just wake up and we see the better solution. But I've been sick my whole life. From the time I was born, the doctors yanking me out with forceps, to having twisted hips, wearing special shoes, being in pain my whole life. I grew 9 inches in 3 months.
Wow.
And then I was walking in a parking lot and a car ran over me. And, then after a silver amalgam filling when I was 20 years old, I became allergic to everything, had candida, thyroid issues, psoriasis, just couldn't think. I was a mess. And so I just had this underlying feeling that if my body had what it needed, that it should work, that I don't have to be, trapped into these medications forever. And so I just, because after the nuclear power plant construction era, I went into land development and building houses, running construction crews. And so, I just spared no expense of trying everything. And I think I got my own sauna. It was just the infrared sauna in about 2000. And, there's a lot of different types of saunas out there, and I've tried them all. And when I started doing, in 2011, I started doing hair analysis, you start detoxing a lot more. And I heard about near infrared. Of course, I'm like going, man, I got this really nice expensive wooden box sauna, and I'm sweating good. I'm feeling good. I really didn't understand the difference. But I decided to give it a try. The heat lamp bulbs like you see at a buffet, and I'm like going, okay, we'll give this a try. And, day one, I just used a small room at the time, a small bathroom, and I didn't sweat that much, but it felt pretty good. Day two, sweat a little more. By day three, I was sweating a lot. And I don't know, this energetic feeling that's just like real cleanness and just, peacefulness came over me to the point where, I never took a far infrared sauna since. And my son was at the University of Washington. He's got a biology degree and did a lot of chemistry and everything. And I'm going, well, son, why is this near infrared so special? Of course, he was studying biomodulation and how light, certain wavelengths react with cells. And so I read about all that and I'm going, wow, this is like amazing. And so, you start out, with using canvas and all this kind of stuff. But, with the heat lamp bulbs, it didn't get as hot as what I was used to. You felt really good, but you just didn't get that drenching sweat. And so I just started experimenting around with some radiant panels because, light travels at the speed of light, and I just started thinking, what if it couldn't leave? Because
couldn't leave like what you were in, as you're saying,
right?
Can't
Right.
get out.
Yeah. Couldn't get out, because, mathematically you start, every minute at the speed of light, you're getting that much more phototherapy, how's that going to make your body respond, and because that near infrared light spectrum causes your cell, it's a powerhouse of mitochondria. I mean, that's why we have life on planet Earth, is because sunlight has near infrared and causes photosynthesis. So we want that going on in our body, because normally for us to make cellular energy, we've got to digest food. And, with everybody's poor gut health and problems, what's the number one problem in America? Lack of energy. People are fatigued. Look at the coffee consumption and energy drinks, So that's, the first sign that we have an imbalance. And so when you can just relax, shine some light on your skin to get that boost of energy, man, it just like it feels so good. So I wanted to maximize that effect when you're in there.
So let's back up a little bit. So people who are listening, right, they've heard of saunas, and kind of like you go in some kind of box, right, and there's some heat source, right, and there's going primally, right, people have sweat lodges like the Native Americans, and then like using heat has been going on for a very long time all around the globe in some type of enclosed structure, creating some type of heat source to create a cleansing, detoxification, even spiritual growth, journey often, right?
Right.
So there's this, a lot of times there's like a sauna war of everybody wanting to prove what's best. I know that's a big one. Right? We have these traditional Finnish sauna, right? This like this kind of where most of the research legitimately does come from. And so I tell them that's fine. And I'm not opposed. I tell people I think it's a great healing tool. If you live in Sweden and they're on everybody's house and they're made the right way, I will go in them and I will get healing, right? For Americans and Canadians and stuff, like we don't live that lifestyle. And so what people have gone to, because it's cheaper and effective, are like wooden boxes that are infrared, right? So maybe can you explain a little bit about what that traditional kind of sauna is versus the infrared box, which I had one of those too, why that's different there. And then over here, we have light bulb based near infrared, which has middle and far in there going on too. So I want to kind of like do a little bit of compare and contrast. And then we'll spend a little time onto what you have and what I use. Why you and I think this is probably the superior method. And then we'll get into why yours is very unique with the tent, because that was a big reason why I chose yours as opposed to a canvas model, which are very popular and have, but I'm like, there's a reason they're not as effective because of the shielding they're using. So maybe can you just break those three down a little bit?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, for thousands of years, they've like built fires, put rocks, been in tents to generate, heat. There's been a lot of studies. They say that if you take at least five saunas a week, you are going to live 7 to 10 years longer, and you're going to be healthier during that time frame. So it's like undisputed that heat stress therapy, no matter how it comes from, whether it's just high ambient heat or whether it's through far infrared wavelength or near infrared wavelength, they all are great for you. And with a traditional Finnish sauna, and you might recognize one of those from like maybe a gym in America or a hotel, they actually have like, cedar wooden walls, benches. There's like a heater in the corner with rocks that people pour water over. And so the purpose of pouring the water over those rocks is just not to raise the humidity, but if you have a good kind of heater, because not all heaters produce the right kind of ions in those saunas, or studies about that. But when you're pouring the water over the rocks, you're generating large amounts of negative ions in the air. So
what do those do?
Those do a lot of things, but with the traditional sauna, keep in mind that it has the highest ambient air temperature, like 180 degrees and higher, and it's harder to breathe in there. But when you are inhaling negative ions, there was a study from Europe where they were testing out these types of heaters with the rocks, because some of them brands, because of the metal components or whatever, the design of these heaters, were generating positive ions, and people were becoming more fatigued, and it wasn't good. So they were like, trying to figure out which ones are the better therapeutic effects on the body. And it was the certain kinds of heaters that generated negative ions.
Let me just say the little word. So you guys, a negative ion is like an antioxidant. And a positive one would be like a free radical, what the words they would think of. One's going to make you inflamed, the positive, the cation, inflammation. The other one, the negative, brings down inflammation, helps support healing. It's like standing on the earth, breathing in the air in a thunderstorm or at a waterfall. Those areas are full of negative ions. It's part of why being in nature is so healing for us. It's because it literally is taking away like radiation inside our bodies. Okay, so that's what's going on. So some of the machines you're saying are actually producing the opposite of what we're wanting, and the cations actually causing more inflammation and damage. Okay.
Right. And so they did this study, and they found out that if you inhale 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter, keep in mind on the freeway in LA, you're lucky to have 400 negative ions per cubic centimeter versus out like, a meadow or the beach, or like you say in nature, you're going to have 5,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter and higher at waterfalls. And so with that being said, they found out that if you were inhaling that amount of ions, your rectal temperature wouldn't go down. So one thing we have to realize is our body is, it's always trying to seek balance. Is kind of like referred to as a homeostatic balance. And so when your body starts to heat up, it tries to cool itself down. And the first thing that will happen when you get in a sauna, unless you're breathing negative ions, is your rectal temperature will go down. The whole purpose of a sauna is to increase our core body temperature, kind of have a hyperthermic effect. And so they found out that inhaling the ions, they even said that half the benefits of a sauna is the ion component. And
that's a benefit that of a traditional Finnish sauna done the right way. There are high negative ions in there.
Right.
Done the wrong way, it can be the opposite.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't think infrared saunas have any negative ions.
No, and that's why I have my Breeze Safe. We'll talk about that.
I see it behind you. I have it too. I have two.
Yeah, and
I have one. They're everywhere.
So I just want to maximize. I want to stack our hacks. When we're doing something, let's face it, we're in the 21st century and life keeps lifing and it just doesn't stop. So if we want to be intentional about our health and wellness, we got to do things simultaneously.
So we got that heat with the negative ions, traditional Finnish sauna. I'm not knocking those when they're done well. I tell people, I'm like, if I travel and my hotel has one and I'm going to get in it,
Right.
Then, but bigger, more money, typically, I know people are building, not everybody can build one of these things in their backyard. Not everybody has a yard. A lot of people are living in apartments and townhouses.
Oh, and the power, you have to preheat those things.
Yeah.
So, I evaluated how much it would be back in the year 2000, and it was going to cost me over $300 a month to have one of those in my home for the power. Well, you know how the power has gone up since then. Yeah. And so it's an expensive proposition to have a traditional Finnish sauna in your home. But the other benefit I want to explain is the skin surface temperatures were hotter and the sweat volume doubled coming off the person. And then they interviewed everybody. How do you feel? The people without the negative ions were, like experiencing some fatigue. And you'd think if you had twice as much sweat, were a lot hotter, that you'd be more uncomfortable. They actually reported that they were feeling relaxed and good. Mm-hmm. And, then after they got out of the sauna, a strange phenomenon happened. Their rectal temperature continued to rise because of inhaling the negative ions, and it changed the electrolytes, profile. And so it's just huge. But the one thing I noticed, so that's the traditional sauna. But then, I went to the popular box, the far infrared sauna. Right. And it's considered a dry sauna, but I used to have to preheat it for 30 minutes and I would stay in there for 45, and they had an air temperature.
You have to preheat it a long time, 45 minutes to an hour. I didn't even break a sweat until about 45 minutes into it. So I would go about an hour, hour and a half. I was like, this is unbelievable. So the timing and the planning, it was a little bit.
Forget to turn it on.
And you're like, oh no, I can't.
Or you turn it on and something comes up and you got to leave.
Yeah. It was tough. I had one for years and one of the best on the market with one of the lowest EMF. That's a whole nother issue of toxic solvents, paints, chemicals in the woods, or the glues that people don't think about, as well as the electrical conduction of what might be happening in the walls, what's happening with you, the electromagnetic radiation. So those are issues with those. There are good ones on the market that are decent. I tell people, right? And you had that one, and I probably had that one. But there was a downside to it. So there's those. No negative ions though, unless you're putting one of your devices or something.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And so the thing that I noticed when I would stay in that sauna, like you said, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, you'd really sweat. So even though it's a dry sauna, the humidity rises. And I read another European study analyzing sweat. Like if you are exercising, that's activating the sympathetic dominant nervous system. And then if you're in a traditional sauna, you're more activating the sympathetic, because of the extreme heat, but more in the infrared saunas, you're activating your parasympathetic, so it's more of a healing, relaxation. So then your body goes into detox mode, and the sweat from that kind of sauna had a lot more toxins. So I started thinking about, oh my gosh, here I am working hard to sweat all this stuff out and I'm rebreathing it. And that was part of the Breeze Safe. because it has the capacity to really clean the air of volatile organic compounds and all the stuff we're sweating out. But yeah, so I really loved my wooden sauna, but that was before I knew about EMFs. Then I got my meter and I'm like going, holy cow, this is like off the charts. 2 heaters in front, 2 on my back, the control panel, the control box. I mean, it's just like EMF everywhere. And I'm like going, oh my gosh, here I was like trying to do something good for myself. And
the invisible poisons are the worst. I tell people the things that you're not seeing is really like, oh, right. Waveform, right?
Right.
Okay, so you measured yours, and that's the thing people don't think to do, and you were trying to explain. So I'm curious about, so when you tried the light bulbs in this bathroom, right, even after a few days, like that feeling, and what did your son say to explain what was the difference of having actual real light, light bulbs with near infrared concentration, some middle and some far, hitting the skin and having that different effect?
Yeah.
Because you weren't really getting as much detox at that point, as much. And I'm curious about that transition, because then you built the tent and you really got into it. So what did your son really explain to you that made you go, oh, I get it?
Well, the bulbs also emit red light, red light, near infrared. Those are the rays that actually biologically react with the cells, where far infrared actually, it like begins to like vibrate our water molecules. So it doesn't cause our cells to produce more energy, but it's increasing the heat, which is still healthy. But he said you definitely by far, if you had to choose, you'd want to get the heat stress therapy from something that is activating your metabolism, with the ATP and, building the collagen and, the nitric oxide for the dilation of the blood vessels, for the things that the near infrared light does for your flexibility, and just the anti-aging effect, additionally, all saunas are going to be, burning more calories. But yeah, he really went into, the benefits and if you're going to do
biomodulation, really.
Yeah.
And the red bulbs are like just that single red heat bulb. I mean, so in her unit, you guys will see, and they'll have links to everything and how you can buy your own exactly. Well, I have a really old version. The new versions are much better than what I have. So I have one of her like older models, but the thing is still banging. There's not a thing wrong with it. I mean, it's years and years old, used almost every day, and it works amazingly well. Never even changed a light bulb. But that bulb is like, the poor man's version of red light therapy, of the LED panels, which I do use and sell. But on top of, I start patients even, Eileen, with one bulb, single red bulb therapy. I'm like, any of my patients, any family can afford one bulb and a chicken coop, breeder's clamp, and use red light therapy on their children, on their bellies, to calm the nervous system, activate the vagus nerve, create a little bit of gentle detoxification, right? Just soothe them. I have parents do that. I go read the bedtime story like this under this heat lamp, and that baby will sleep so, and by baby, I mean any child.
Right,
sleep so well. And I've had so many mothers send the email or the message, I'm going to name my next child after you, because that kid slept 8-10 straight hours. I slept the best that night. There's no waking up. You've changed our lives because now the kids sleep all night and it's amazing. And I'm like, I know. So you just kind of took it the next level. But even that one bulb, I've seen it used. I've used it, for 15, 20 years with patients. It's a very potent little thing. So that's your first step. Then if I can get them to upgrade to a sauna and everything else, right?
Right. Yeah.
Better effect. So when you take several of those, you had how many bulbs in the bathroom did you do? Did you do four?
I had four.
All right. So she's created and designed this light clamp thing that you can buy just that separately. Like some people will have this box sauna They said, well, I got my infrared thing. They'll heat that thing up. They'll get it super hot, preheat, turn it, and it'll have her light bulbs in it. Have the light bulbs go inside the infrared, turn it off. So now you're not baked in any EMF, and then you use the light bulbs. This is how Joe Mercola does it now. So he's got it super hot, and then he's using the light bulbs to stay in it. So it's like the best of both worlds. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you have a sauna, maybe you can still keep that and you add these lights, right? You can just add the lights kind of, I've had patients hack like closets and kind of turn it into their mini saunas until they could buy your tent, right?
Right.
So you can actually piecemeal this bit by bit, you know, and get it together how it works for you, right? So let's go to the next step of like how you built the tent and this idea of the speed of light, because most of what's in the market for these bulb tents, they're pretty, but they're canvas, and the light and the heat is going through. Yours does something different.
Yeah. You know, I started there, you know, with, you know, canvas, and, you know, I'm shocked that there's actually companies out there selling a sauna with a canvas that's not organic. Because when I was talking with my son about the modified cotton that we have now, it's like the cells of the plant actually release pesticides, which are subvolatile organic compounds. And when you mix heat and pesticides in a sauna that you're breathing, that's like really taboo. That's like something you should never, ever, ever do. And so, you know, doing the organic material, I started off with some organic fleece, but, you know, again, you know, having to preheat it for like a half an hour, 45 minutes. As soon as you open the door, you know, you got to rush in there, and it's just not working. And so I actually played around with some insulated panels that I like lined a whole shower and tub and lowered the ceiling and got in there. And then I was, you know, feeling better, but it just wasn't enough. And so I got some panels, because like in Europe and other countries, instead of using the bat insulation that we use in our homes, they have this material that's like 5 layers. So they have a clear layer, like space blanket material, you know, like your emergency blanket is really thin. It's like an aluminum. And then they use bubble wrap with another layer of space blanket material, and then a polymer layer. So it's encapsulated, and they make this stuff up to like R50, you know, not all of it.
What does that mean? What is that? What are those
That's
numbers?
like if you're going to build a house like in Washington State so that you can retain your coolness and, you know, your heat inside your home, so your home can be conditioned, like the R value is a rating for insulation as far as how resistant your house is to retaining heat or blocking, you know, cold from coming in. And so like a home will have like walls of R21, you know, some ceilings. It really depends on where you live. Everyone has a different, you know, building standard. But so I started playing around with, and the tent that you have, Dr. Rimka, came with an R4 insulation rating. So a lot of the heat would still escape from the tent, but with the addition of the radiant material, the light would bounce. So you'd be retaining that light, exposing your skin cells over and over again. So it like maximized the phototherapy. So you wouldn't just be sweating because of the ambient air temperature in the tent.
Right.
You know, like you're still, you know, I would always preheat it to get a, you know, a better sweat. And I have to thank my customers. They give me so many good ideas. And that's the thing, is if anybody has an idea, let me know, because that's why my tents are so different than the one that you have right now, is because it's like, I always want the better widget. So I'm changing things constantly. But I had a customer who had your tent, which is 4 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot. So here I am 6 foot. I have to crawl in, sit down on a stool, you know, then it would work fine, but you couldn't lay down. And some people, you know, with their backs, they really can't, you know, sit for that long a time.
Or just fatigue, right? Fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or mold illness. It does take some effort to, you know, versus now you can lie down and you can have different configurations in yours. I was like, wow, that's powerful. Yeah.
Well, so a customer flipped her sauna on the ground and put the floor against a wall, and then she laid diagonal. So I'm going, oh my gosh. And I fell asleep, and then I knew how to do brackets and everything to have it like a little man transformer. My grandsons are playing with their transformers. I'm going like, well, that's what I could do for the tent.
Yeah.
So my son is 6'5" and I'm 6 foot. So of course I made the sauna so he could stand up, you know, or lay down.
Yeah.
You know, so instead of a 4 foot by 4 foot print, I made it 3 foot by 4 foot. So you still have the 4 foot distance. So you can put the lights, you know, on the 3 foot wide side, and you're still sitting like you need to. And then with the brackets, you just flip it and you can lay down and then hang the lights from the ceiling. And so I made the, you know, the hanging bars that come with it. And, you know, so I first had a prototype with the same R4, and then I had a problem. I had a lot of people complaining the silver thing with the red cotton webbing looked obnoxious. People wanted me.
It's a little bit space age, but I'm like, hey, I just said it could be prettier, but I don't really care. But yeah.
So I started investigating because they wanted to have a cover. Yeah. So I started thinking about sewing like a curtain cover for it and all this. And then I came up with the idea, what if I had like a wood grain additional film that I could have them laminate on there to change the whole look of it, and then change, you know, the webbing and all that. So I played around because I, you know, used AutoCAD and, you know, Adobe Illustrator and all this, like when I was designing houses. So I was playing around with wood grain patterns and everything. And I went through several different types of patterns and came up with one, and we laminated it on. And so that's when I checked into, because here's the tent, it's going to be a little bit bigger as far as the cubic volume, 3 foot by 4 foot by, you know, 6'5" is a little bit larger than a 4 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot. So I'm concerned about preheating, you know, and keeping it warm enough. And so I went to the thicker panel. It has actually bigger bubbles. They don't even make it in America at all. And I, you know, so the rating, it's got a Class A fire rating. Okay. So that's the other thing is, let's say, God forbid, something, the sauna had a malfunction, which I have liability insurance for, but, you know, then that tent would retain things in there. So it's got a Class A fire rating, and then it has an R12 insulation value. So so I was still concerned about that. So I created a drop ceiling, and there's a picture on Instagram we just posted that proves that the light can't travel out of the tent, because in the drop ceiling, there's no light above that panel.
Oh, cool.
You know, but that's so that we could get it hot enough, because I didn't know. So now no one uses that drop panel, but it's included in there. Because, you know, in my new sauna, without a preheat, in 5 minutes, it's 120 degrees. With that drop panel, you can get 190. And so, you know, a lot of these sauna places are hypothermic treatment centers. You know, they're trying to get skin surface temperatures up. They're trying to get rectal temperatures up to like, you know, 102.8 and above. Well, it's like, if somebody wants to have that therapy, and that's why I think the Lyme disease communities love and only recommend my sauna, is because they're achieving the higher rectal temperatures, you know, in the tent, because with that drop panel, you get 190 degrees. Now, no, most people don't need it like that. And then the adding of the breathe safe, that actually increases your rectal temperature more. But I evolved with that design. So even I have families that 2 people in the lay down position, they put their heads at opposite ends, and they could lay side by side in the new tent, and they could.
And that's just the regular one. That's not the yoga.
Right.
I know you got this other like, wow,
bigger one.
you know, that you can put like 2 light sources in.
And I have to thank another customer who had 2 of the tents that you had and zipped them together.
Yeah.
And then they were doing yoga poses, and they're going, man, I wish I could stand up. And I said, and it was Jen Bodner from Yoga Digest. I said, okay, so what size is ideal? Of course, she's a short little thing. And so, you know, still the 6'5" height, and then the same width, 3 feet, but the length is like, instead of 120 centimeters, it's 240. So that's 7'11" and some change for inches in length. And so then again, I was concerned, like, you know, not everybody does yoga. So I created a middle partition to cut it in half. So it's just like the stand-up version of the small sauna. So they can, you know, get a real good sweat on. And I even created a drop ceiling for that as well. And so
that's just to make it get hotter. To get it hotter, faster, and everything.
Give the customer more options.
Right.
But if somebody,
I have the old one, you guys. So like this, I don't have these new ones, and I've been on the website and I'm like, wow. So I got the R4. I got the old ugly, you know, spaceship. I don't care. I sweat. I rarely preheat it. I mean, I might, you know, sometimes I'm preheating, sometimes I'm not. Okay. I sweat so fast, so much in this thing. I mean, I used to have to sit 45 minutes on my other. I had a $6,000, one of your top of the line. I've told people I had a Sunlight, and I had a very nice, good sauna, one of the ones I consider safe. You know, not one of the lower EMFs, no toxic glues. It's a quality infrared sauna, over $6,000. I had to pay somebody to set it up. I had to pay an electrician to get it wired right. This thing from you, I set up myself in about 15, 20 minutes. There's no special anything. You plug it in. I pack it up all the time. If I travel, go out of the country for a while, 2-3 weeks or anything like that, I always give it to somebody. I'm like, well, somebody needs to take my sauna. I mean, there's no reason for it. So somebody can come over, we pack it up, they take it to their house for a month at a time, and then I bring it. It's like, it's that easy. Okay. Like I don't need any help. I don't need any assistance or a carpenter or anything like you do with the other ones. I sweat so much within, it's not 5 minutes, I don't think, where you're like, this is unbelievable, you know? And so I'm done in 20, 30 minutes usually is a max. So I'm in that somewhere in the 20 to 30 minutes of walking in, of zip, sit down, zip, wash, and get it done, you know? So time efficient, so effective. So, and I'm in an old R4. I
now,
can't imagine.
Are you using the breathe safe in there?
Yeah, I have the breathe safe. Yeah, I got the whole shebang. I got the bamboo floor. I bought the whole kit. You know what I mean? Yeah. I have the breathe safe. Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like knowing it's even better, you know, insulated better. And so it's reflective, you guys. So it's like this, you're kind of like looks like tin foil. Like is it still that inside? That
yes.
Like? Yeah.
Yes.
So the light, what she's saying is it bounces off. It's like she's put up panels to reflect the light. So like you're still being bumped. So you got the things in front of you and you're rotating around how you do this, but then it's bouncing everywhere. So light is hitting me like the old school, remember people would hold the tin things to get a tan like that. That's what it's kind of like you're doing, right? So she's got this bigger one, bigger than mine. You got this big yoga thing, which would be great for, right? Even I think commercially, people to be using, offices to be using, or yoga places.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had the lay down version at home that I was using, and I moved the yoga tent home. And so I had read a study, because I was like 183, 185 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall, so even though you look at my videos from years ago, I didn't look like I was fat, but I was overweight really for my age, my frame, but I just changed after I read a study from Germany where these women rode bicycles for 40 minutes, 3 times a week. This isn't a vigorous exercise program, right? 40 minutes, 3 times a week. They had a group just ride bicycles, and they had a group ride bicycles with near infrared light shining on them. And the group that had, after a month, so this wasn't very long at all, the group that had the light on them lost a collective amount of 8 centimeters in the circumference of their body, had less pain, lost weight, but their bodies contoured.
Was it just light?
Yeah, light in an open,
like a sauna. Okay.
Wow. In an open room.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because, when you think of our bodies, we have an overall metabolism, and because of the circadian rhythm, it it's faster in the morning, slows down at night, but then we have cells that have their own metabolism, and fat cells, of course, are where our body puts a lot of toxins to store to protect our organs, but those cells have a slower metabolism. So what they found with the body contouring and weight loss from these women is that the near infrared light was causing the fat cells to burn the fat for energy, and it was just slimming them down. And so after I read about that,
did it have anything to do? I don't know if was it causing any browning, any beiging, like the white fat to beige into brown fat? Was it that mechanism?
They didn't study, how it was happening. Okay. They were just measuring the circumference, the weight. There was less pain. They had better blood sugar, levels. But that was the extent of that study. But, so I started figuring, well, bicycles, any movement. So I started, doing stretching, everything like that. I started the 8-hour eating window, going out, drinking my 1 cup of coffee a day, watching the sunrise barefooted, that kind of thing.
It's light therapy, you guys, because I'm very into the sun. So what these bulbs are is a tech version of sunlight, right? That's why working under sunlight with a lot of skin exposed, doing hard work is heat stress, because people get hot in the sun when they exercise. That's a form of heat therapy as well, while moving in light. So these red bulbs are like mimicking sunlight that, and as you said, we are lacking in sunlight. I think that's why we felt so good. Yeah.
But so I didn't change much of anything else.
Yeah.
And in a year and a half, maybe it's been closer to 2 years now, I've lost 38 pounds, and I am a size 6 now instead of a size 14. 12, some 12s would fit me tight, but, and I just feel so much better.
Yeah. It's a massive upgrade of metabolic health, right? Your waist to height circumference, the ratios are better. The blood sugar regulation, your insulin will be lower. Your C-reactive protein's got to be lower. Your homocysteine's probably better. All of your metabolic markers, right? So then your immune system modulation, because some people will just hook on that. And again, women, hey, size 6, but with that is she's stronger, she's more resilient, she is more bulletproof to all kinds of stressors thrown at her, whether you believe in contagious, infectious things, whether her body puts cancer in check better now, all of, she's more efficient and effective at how she does everything. So her system can take care of any problem because it's not tired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. I didn't do that to try to have some kind of massive weight loss. It wasn't, my goal was to get healthier,
right?
Reverse aging. I'm going to be 60 years old, and it's like, so for me, it's important to grow older, but feel younger.
Yeah.
And so that's, why I did it, and the consequences, it's a great payback. for the time. But it's like, it's enjoyable. A lot of people go, well, how do you have time? Because I drink ozonated water, do a coffee enema, do my sauna. And now I'm, really the last year been incorporating some, weight, so, my bone density and my muscle mass retain, because that's a big thing in aging is,
Absolutely.
having adequate protein, maintaining your muscle mass. So, I've been doing that, but it's
Do you
just,
lift inside the sauna at all? Do you ever do any?
I haven't recently, but I did, I
I would
have.
imagine resistance bands is actually would be really comfortable. So for a lot of older women, we move maybe towards bands.
Right.
X3 bar Harambe, like that way you don't have to carry that much in there. And the bands you could, do some yoga.
I do a lot of like body weight exercises, because I know as women and stuff get older and stuff, they start like, oh yeah, let's go to the gym, let's like work out with weights, and they hurt themselves, so there's a lot you can do with your own body
prison workout. It's just, and that's what I'm doing right now. She's like, well, we're just doing prison workouts, push-ups and dips and squats. Believe it or not, you squat. I do that because I got the short sauna. And so at times I'm just going to sit here and squat 100 times. You know what I mean? That's what I'm always trying to get my thighs. I'm like, I need the light on my thighs. And I will probably make that upgrade. I'm one of those people. I have my indoor soccer shoes from when I was 16 years old, and I'm 49. So I'm like, they still work. So I still have my Adidas indoor soccer shoes. I'm like, why would I get rid of them? Right. Unless the sole is ripped off, I'm going to still wear them. So I'm kind of that person of, well, I would never buy a new thing every year. And people, that happens with iPhones or whatever. I'm like, why are you doing? I don't need the new, but I'm really wanting that yoga one now. I'm really like,
and
it would be so good to move inside of it.
Yes, it's so healthy for you to move. And then, then I have people who are taller, like, Tyson Ross, he's a Major League Baseball player. He's 6'8". So even in the yoga sauna, he has to like duck down.
Wow.
And then there's other people that really into yoga in every pose. And they, when you're 6'1", you can't go in the yoga sauna and go like this. So I designed a yoga height extension kit.
Oh,
because there's Major League basketball players that want the sauna, and they're all tall, and so I love it how, and you're just this engineer. I love this guy. It's like engineers have a whole nother way of that they think. In case you guys don't know, I do brain imaging, QEEGs, and every time we have a brain map, you can kind of go, one of the things, well, it's a certain configuration, and we look at each other like, well, is this an engineer? And they go, yeah. I go, then she's totally normal. If it's an engineer, that's how they all look, and it's actually, don't mess with them because their brains look different. You guys really are different. All right, so you have an extension. Now, I'm going to ask you something that maybe you don't want to promote, but I heard you saying when we talked, something is coming out that you don't have on the site yet. You have some little tiny sauna that's coming, or what's happening? What did you say? Is there some of the new smaller saunas, just during the manufacturing process, when they were sewing it, there might be like small cuts on the inside or like little hole punctures. So I'd always, either replace the panels or give the customer a discount, to keep it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's always taken the discount to keep it, but that frustrated me, even though it's only happened about 7 or 8 times. That just disappointed me, but it never happened on the outside of the tent. And the wood grain, laminated layer is a lot thicker than the inside. So I upgraded the inside of all these thousands of yards that I had to buy. So the new convertible tents that are coming, they're just stuck in the Port of Seattle. They've been there for like, anyway.
Political. I know it's it's okay. Everybody's like, there's some bad, stupid things happening politically right now, and it is what it is. But because everyone's asking, I'm like, I bet it's just stuck somewhere. Yeah.
So by solving my problem, because I didn't want to have any damage on the inside of the tent, it actually increased the R value from an R12 to an R15. So the new tents made out of that, material have a greater insulation value. And I haven't let anybody know that, when they buy that, that they are going to be getting that, in the future.
Okay.
The yoga tent inventory that we have is still the R12. But what we did with the yoga tent is now we've got a band. We have like 6 little extension poles. There's actually a video on YouTube of how to put this on. And then, you attach it around, and then even somebody who's like 6'1" can completely raise their hands without touching the ceiling.
Wow.
And then the taller players, athletes can use it, but then you really need to have double lamps, 2 sauna fixtures. So you have the 8 bulbs,
right?
And that tent, is just going to be more versatile now. And that's like an optional feature, that people can get.
Yeah.
And so
Very
that's
cool.
So it's not on there. Those are in that container, just in an area of the port where trucks can't get to yet, just waiting its turn with the lamps that I'm out of. I mean, because there's a lot of people that bought the pre-sale bundle.
Oh, I have a patient recently in New York, and she goes, I had an appointment. She goes, well, I got the tent. I said, okay, so we saw it. She goes, no, I don't have the bulbs yet. I said, what? And she goes, it's shipping. And so I said,
I know. So I gave people a bunch of freebie stuff that they could use now as compensation because they don't have the lamps now, knowing.
And we get that's out of some of this stuff right now is shipping. I tell people they get, I have some items that I love that came from India, and I go, you guys, we're dealing with a 2-year major ordeal that some of these things are out of their control. And I've loved that supplier for 15 years, and that product is extraordinary. If they can't get it to you, they can't get it to you. But yours is basically here. It's just a matter of getting things out, and things are shipping a little bit slower. And I think everybody's used to that, like a lot of products and companies.
Well, I guessed February 15th that I'd be shipping out the orders. So it's the 17th today. So, I don't know how many weeks or days. I might get a call tomorrow and the trucker says I'm going to be there in 3 or 4 days. But anyway, we're ready. We've been organizing the warehouse and making room for all the pallets. And
awesome. Well, why don't we end with, any final words on, I have tons of videos, you guys. I'll drop some down for you if you're watching this on YouTube. Of some of my other sauna videos, why heat stress is so important, what things, the brain health, such as Alzheimer's, depression, anxiety. There's a number of reasons that relate to outside, cardiovascular risk, the #1 killer in America, decreases the risk factor for that tremendously. I'll drop some of those things down. It's not exactly what this is about, but if you could, just a little bit of what makes near infrared in your sauna. And I don't know if you want to talk about the blood shunting or not.
Oh, yeah.
And coupled with the Breathe Safe, the plasma ion, why this mix, why this biohacking stack of yours is unique. Why don't you end it with that so they can really get it, why this is different than some cheap one-off thing at Costco.
Right.
Okay.
Well, there are even like really nice brands that have caught on to the fact that near infrared is healthy. Unfortunately, what they've done is they've just added a few LED lights to say they're full spectrum, that they provide near infrared. But when you compare the bulb spectrum sheet, it starts at 550, like 2-to-1 mountain climbs up to 1100. And then begins to drop down and then levels out at like 3000. I didn't go test past 3000, but from the chart, looks like it's going to go about 3400 nanometers of light. And so you're going to feel the effects, like you had a sunlight and it was probably the full spectrum or whatever. Combination with the light not being able to leave, maximizing the phototherapy, but having the different spectrum where most of the bulk of the intensity of the nanometers are in the range that's most therapeutic. For near infrared, it's like, even if you look at K lasers, there's certain nanometers of light that react on the body more beneficially, to repair, to reduce pain and inflammation and all that kind of thing. And so that's why you're going to feel a huge difference with the incandescent bulbs. The other thing is in those other saunas, the ambient air temperature around you, your whole body is constant. Now, with my new tents, the temperature is pretty hot, can get pretty hot all around, but it's still hottest where the lights shine on your body. And when you're new to this kind of sauna, a weird phenomenon happens. When you get in there, you're only going to sweat on the side. Firstly, you're going to sweat on the side of your body that's facing the lights. And why does your body do that? I mean, it's a homeostatic response again. It's actually going to shunt blood to vasculate your tissues so that water can escape from your bloodstream to cool down the surface of your skin. So of course, in a sauna, we don't want to cool down, right? That's why I say drink water before, drink water after. If you have to drink water during a sauna, that's fine. But, you're just extending the time you should stay in your sauna if you do. And so then we teach people to wipe that sweat down, because after all, it's, cooling you down, and then you rotate. Then your body has to shunt the blood towards the light again. So it's like double the circulation effect. So that's a huge benefit when, the ambient air temperature can be hotter on, one side of your body than the other. Then you'll be vigorously sweating everywhere. It'll just be a matter of minutes.
Yeah, by the end, you can't.
You can't escape it. And then the other thing is, that toxic humidified sauna sweat. Why re-inhale that? Let's get some negative ions in there, so you're getting hotter faster anyway and feeling more comfortable. And then you're just going to have huge benefits. The thing about the Breathe Safe.
So actually, I'm going to point it out to people who are visually looking. So right behind her, you see a little green light. There's a small little device. You can't hear it. You don't notice it. It's so tiny. There's an adapter. You can put it in your car. Okay. I have done that. I take it with me when I travel to hotels and stuff. So I can clean the air and give myself a lot of ions wherever I am. So it's very, very tiny, unobtrusive. I've got one in my office just like that as well. So I have more than one, but it's an upgrade, right? It's an extra thing you add. So she's not forcing you to get it. I highly recommend you do. And I highly recommend you use them in your house like this. Tell them about this device, because I think the return on investment and the cost is so extraordinary, especially compared to other things I see on the market that are nowhere near as good. It's a very impressive device. So tell them what's going on with that thing. Because I'd say if you get the sauna, get the Breathe Safe and put it in there.
Well, I was on an airplane and I was in a lucid dream and I saw it on my tray table. Of course, I don't have it FAA approved. Do I take it on airplanes? Yes. Do I use it? Because I saw it with the power bank. You know how you have those gizmos that you can plug your phone in when the battery's dying, or your tablet, because it only consumes 3 amps of power. So it can run off of a 20,000 milliamp battery for 72 hours straight. Wow. And so that way it makes it very portable. You can take it with you. But, I first got it because I wanted to clean the air and to provide those negative ions for the sweat, because that was shortly after I read that study about the 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. And so this is different. Everybody's familiar with the negative ion generator, but there's a new thing on the block called plasma generators. And see, even Sharp has a thing called a plasma cluster, and they make equal amounts of negative ions to positive. Now, in an air purifier, that's actually a good thing, because it's like this invisible electron cloud that is exchanging negative and positive. In the process, it's colliding and destructing contaminants in the air. But with like the plasma cluster, my invention is different because it doesn't make equal amounts. I have a boosted circuit that produces 9,100,000 negative ions and 4,550,000 positive. And when you do that with that special ratio, we're not creating toxic ozone in the air. The reason why the plasma clusters are only making 15,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter is because if they, in equal amounts, raise it, they start generating toxic ozone. Okay, so I got rid of the toxic ozone aspect. And so you have all this exchange of the negative and positive, but since we have so many more negative ions left over, then it's more beneficial, for inhaling it and things like that. And unbeknownst to me, it also increases background oxygen levels 70 to 118%. Really? So I actually had this family where, they had a lot of asthma. And this person got a hold of me and says, Eileen, I noticed when I was having an asthma attack and I breathed over my breathe safe because I love the smell of it, my asthma attack stopped. And so I have a whole bunch of people that have those things on battery packs, and they say, hey, if there's a disaster, that's the first thing I'm grabbing when I leave the house, because they can do a crossbody bag on the battery pack and put the breathe safe here and go places and not have breathing distress.
Wow.
And so then, we're doing yoga, we're doing deep breathing. We need more oxygen in our bodies. So, also breathing that oxygen when we're in the sauna helps us. And also, just because we're in the 21st century indoors, our heating and ventilation system is stripping negative ions out of the air and oxygen out of the air. And so it's just, an awesome thing. When I'm on my tread climber, I put my breathe safe there, so I'm breathing oxygen as I'm exercising. It just really helps. Then I had people, because you've got all these smart watches now that measure your oxygen saturation at night. And, we have a lot of mouth breathers. So people are taping their mouths, or they're unfortunately having to use CPAP equipment for sleep apnea and all this kind of stuff. And so I've had people getting a hold of me saying, Eileen, I've just had this low oxygen, 87, 88. And, I noticed when I just, I turned my breathe safe so I could actually, laid it on its side in my bed to where I could inhale it. Oh. And she says, my monitor says my oxygen was 92, 93. So that's statistically significant. And then if people want to read the reviews on the website, there's people talking about how they no longer mouth breathe, that it cleans up their whole sinuses and they're just sleeping for the first time. And so there's a lot going on with that little device that is more than just for use in your sauna. So, I sleep with it. I remember going to my cousin's house, and I got there and I spent the night because I was doing a trade show, and oh my gosh, walked down in the basement. They had problems with water infiltration, the mold. Literally my lungs were closing up. I slept with that breathe safe like 6 inches from my face, and then I wouldn't have a reaction. I'd wake up hardly being able to breathe where I had turned. So I repositioned it, and then I never stayed there again. It's like some people don't even realize the mold in their home, but it's just a lifesaver, and you could have multiple ones, or you could buy just different cords so you can take it with you or put it on a battery pack. If you notice, when you buy the breathe safe, there's a double stick Velcro tape in there. And the reason
so
being,
long ago, but now that's okay.
I stick that on the bottom of one, and I attach one of those battery packs to it.
Oh.
So that way
does it come with an adapter for that, for the USB?
The same cord.
Oh yeah, it's right. It's that little thing. Because you know what? Now you've just upgraded me. I'm going to try really hard because I just keep it in. So I keep like where my sauna is. And I don't use that breathe state when I'm in it. I get it. Now I keep the door open. So it is aerating the whole room. And I keep it in my garage, which is like finished. But I'm like really not getting as much benefit. Like if I had it sitting here right now, that one's kind of wasted unless I'm out there. So if I could just learn to take it, more, because I have one in my office, but I'm like, oh, I should put it in my bedroom. And
and now, because you brought those years ago, we have a brush where it's easier to clean. But if your plate is pitted at all, because if you forget to clean it with the dirt on there, it'll pit, then it'll produce less. So we have replacement plates too.
Okay. I probably need to check that. I will say I'm one of those that maintenance isn't my strong suit. So you do have to clean it, you guys, and it shows you how to do that, but now you got brushes to make it easier. Okay. Yeah, I was tipping and sometimes. So, all right, I'll check. I'm going to check and see if my plates are pitted.
Because you could be getting more.
Yeah, I might need to do an upgrade. I'm sure I need to do a lot of upgrades, but I've loved every second of it.
We have a bundle that is one breathe safe with 6 ionic refreshers. I'll just quickly tell you about that. My sons at college had roommates where they had those plug-in Glade Airwick things. I mean, you look at the ingredients on the Health and Human Services and they actually cause cancer, but they're at minuscule levels, but the fragrance, I mean, they don't clean the air at all. Right. So it's like, I decided to create a little device that plugs in. It looks like it, but there's no maintenance other than just wipe it down, and it uses metal impregnated carbon fiber tips to generate negative ions. Yeah, it only produces, I think, 32,000 negative ions, but they're actually more effective. Like the Breathe Safe, the lab reports, super high at getting rid of small particles that a HEPA filter can't clean and volatile organic compounds, but it only kills like 48% of pathogens in the air. And it, but it produces oxygen. I mean, and it has more negative ions left over. So there's a place for the Breathe Safe. The ionic refresher doesn't replace it, but the ionic refresher kills like almost 90% of pathogens in the air. And it reduces volatile organic compounds, but it's easier to clean than the Breathe Safe. So I use a combination because it's silent air purification. You don't even have to buy replacement filters.
Right.
So
how often do you have to clean it? How often do you have to clean those?
Oh, well, I gave some to my son and he calls me up. He says, Mom, there's a problem. The wall is completely black. What happened? Your device is defective. And I said, go over there and wipe it off. That's dust. You're supposed to like once a month clean the area. So it's super simple. You just, because dust will collect on it and it draws, Yeah. So
give me an idea. Like, what's the price point on like those charge things?
The little things are like $49.99. And you can buy a 12 pack for like the whole house. I mean, now with COVID, I mean, it's like, sterile air. I mean, oh my gosh, so you can either buy a 12 pack for a discounted rate instead of, paying. So I think it's $450 for a 12 pack instead of $50 a piece. And then there's a special way you get the Breathe Safe and 6 of those for less money than buying them individually. So if somebody wanted to start, they could do there. And
I like that. Nice and small. So there's a lot of good things in the market, people say, and I'm like, some of them are big, they're loud. I've had many HEPA filters in home and my office and things like that. And I love the results I get with my Breathe Safe. I have a whole house, actually, hydrogen peroxide UV light filtration system that I did with mold because of the mold, right?
Right.
And not that expensive, but like I had to pay somebody to put it in, and I'm not taking it with me, really. I'm like, it's not gonna.
Right.
This is beautiful because, again, if you live in a lot of people are buying RVs and traveling around. I had a patient appointment today and they just travel the country in an RV. This can go with them everywhere they go, and hotels. And when you visit your mother or your mother-in-law and you're like, I'm keeping my room clean and I'm keeping my air well for myself, because you never know. Like like you, I've been to places where I've walked in and said, gotta go. I know there's mold. I can't do it. I got to tap out. Because once you've had a reaction, most people, if they don't know if they've had that, you become much more sensitive to it, and it's a no-go. So it's important, if you've dealt with some of these like chronic illnesses and mystery diagnoses, these might be some of the extra hacks and biohacks or things that you're missing. What's in the air? How can you up level the negative ions, increase oxygen intake? That might be just a thing that's going to move the dial further for you to have an health upgrade. That's what I think comes on. I think people don't think about.
I read a study about air in cities that's more polluted, and those people have more fat around their waist, the unhealthy abdominal fat, just because they're breathing unhealthy air, more polluted
low oxygen
air.
And more toxin. I mean, it's what else, what I mean? That's stressful on the system, and there's more toxin. So that is what the body does. You're gonna have a cortisol, stress response, which wants you to put belly fat. And fat, like you said earlier, a lot of people don't understand that fat is there to save you, to sequester toxins away and keep them away from things like your brain and your heart. So, it's saving your life and doing the best it can under some really hard circumstances, and like just those simple things. And just like traveling, like flying in an airplane, I mean, it's very low oxygen, and you're inhaling air that's being recycled from the engine. So it's very toxic air inside a plane. There's nothing to do about it, right? So several people have lots of hacks around how you use oxygen compressors and things like methylene blue and things what we're trying to do to help the body still function in the face of low oxygen. And low oxygen, since we're in the time, we've mentioned the COVID already, we get in trouble and banned for things, but that's been a big thing about low pulse ox. So any little thing you can be doing to help upregulate the system, because there's just not enough oxygen in the air when you're in congested cities. That's really becoming an issue. And so part of it is you have to teach yourself to breathe. Sure, we have distress breathing and shallow breathing because of chronic stress, but it's part of it. I wonder if it's just a learned response to the system having too low oxygen. This is a percentage of the quality of oxygen in the air. So getting your home as safe as you can is a good start.
And people don't realize that your body's so smart, it selectively shuts down things based on hierarchy. Like it'll protect bone marrow over joint cartilage, for instance, because, your brain tissue over other stuff. And when we don't have enough oxygen, cells begin to lose a protective enzyme coating. Now, when the cells have that protective enzyme coating, the more resistant to pathogenic, infections. And then, when they lose that enzyme coating, they're more susceptible to go awry, to need to be recycled, or maybe go into, a cancer imbalance. I mean, we all have cancer cells in our bodies. Our bodies are just recycling them because our immune system's in tune. And so when we have lower oxygen, we become like a jalopy, where it's like refusing to replace the alternator in your car. So you're always jump starting and you're driving it without the headlights. Yeah, you're getting to point A and point B, but it's not as good. And so the Breathe Safe is a really good hack, to add. Because it's like you're multitasking, you've got to work, so you could be increasing your body oxygen levels with working instead of being in the intentional deep breathing state or meditation, so it just adds.
No, I'm excited. I mean, it made me rethink. I put so much credence. I know it's there. I know it's the thing and helping me, I'm always like, it's the light and the heat. And I'm like, oh, right. I do have this other thing in there really giving me this incredible synergistic healing, because sauna is truly one of my favorite things to do.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention one other upgrade that your sauna doesn't have that the new ones do. Well, the old bamboo mats didn't have the radiant backing on the bottom, so the new ones do. But I kept on having people ask me, because one of the other saunas says they're a Faraday cage where it's actually literally grounded. And, you know, it was like, I think a $3,000 upgrade to get one of those. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm already EMF blocking. I mean, if you tried to use a remote to the TV and the tent was in between the TV, it just wouldn't work. I mean, it blocks signals already.
Yeah.
So it's just the cotton webbing and the zippers break the metallic, you know, envelope of the tent. And so I just put metal snaps on the tent and provide little cables that just kind of jumper. So that way you can connect all the panels, and likewise on the back of the bamboo mat, the different panels. And then I give you a long cord that you just
grounding.
Yeah, the round plug into the wall outlet. So then you're like grounded in a Faraday cage. And I didn't increase the price for that, but for another sauna that has canvas, no R value, it's $3,000 more to have that benefit, but it's included in the SaunaFix system.
Wow. Okay. So wow. Okay. So first of all, so I'm familiar with like all the earthing mats, and I mean, I own that rug, that blanket right there, that's grounded into my wall port, stuff like that, right? So we're getting that, right? Simulating standing on the earth is what we're saying. But are we truly like a Faraday cage blocking all Wi-Fi? Like will your phone
it dramatically reduces it. Like I've taken my phone in there and I can't connect to the internet.
Okay, that's
but it'll still ring, but it'll be a really spotty call.
Gotcha.
So it's not 100% blocking.
Yeah, because Faraday cages are expensive. I've looked at shielding my bed and it's like $3,000-$4,000. I was like, yeah. So I've hacked it the best I can because I'm like, they are not playing around with how much they're charging for that.
So the width of the cotton webbing with the zipper, you know, so there's a leak. Yeah. You know, where the zippers are basically, but it's like huge as far as, I mean,
wow. So you're grounding at the same, that is really, really, really cool. Cause I do sell grounding rugs and all kinds of things. And people who are into that will know, like David Avocado Wolf is super into this, and other people. It's why you'll see us when we speak or do things, we're barefoot, and often their stages are being grounded. Dave Asprey, super into this, his place in Santa Monica, the bulletproof, he has a different great upgraded labs, everything's grounded. So if you sit down everywhere, everything's plugged in to ground you, to discharge all the static electricity, all the cations off of you, to basically infuse you with antioxidants, free electrons that can grab everything.
Right.
That is really potent. Oh man. I don't have that one. Mine has served me so well. I got to make some more money, Eileen. I got to make a little bit more money so I can get the upgrade. Oh, that is, on that note, wow, boom, boom. So you really put some beautiful, beautiful stacks, some layers in there. I appreciate how much you are driven, by curiosity and upgrading and changing and doing this, and not being married to your old design.
Oh, never.
Being willing to be proved wrong, or how can I get better, and how can I do this?
Once I find out something's not good anymore, I got to fix it and I got to quit selling it.
Dopamine driven. I love your dopamine.
This is not about just making money. This is about helping people, and it's an evolution. I mean, I have 5 patents issued on spinal fitness equipment. We just brought on 34 new products, and that's a huge passion of mine after growing 9 inches in 3 months and being ran over by a car. That's a whole nother story. But when I was down in LA for the Super Bowl for a whole week, and I'm answering customer emails, I have to thank customers. For my new, so I came up with 2 new inventions that I need to patent, 2 more products that I need bringing out just over the weekend. I can barely keep up, but yeah, so, we have to look at our whole organism, what we breathe, what we drink, what goes on our skin. That's a whole nother thing. We make a whole skincare line. And then, you know, even if you eat clean and, you know, do everything healthy, you're going to accumulate toxins, hence the sauna. So we got to,
Yeah.
you know, get it out. I mean, I've got a fantastic castor oil wrap because I bought every one and hated every one and came up with one that's just absolutely
I haven't tried
fantastic.
yours. I'll have to see, because I'm recommend a lot of castor oil packing, and I don't have a
Oh my gosh,
suggestion for
here's one that
people.
doesn't leak. You can like wear it and work out, and you can even put it on your belly and heat it up when you're in the sauna, you know, and it's
Yeah,
all,
I glanced at this. I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here. She has a lot more things. But you know, because I'm just like, get the sauna and the pretty safe. And I was like, people ask me, I'm like, I haven't reviewed it all. I can't speak to everything, but she's smart. I am impressed.
and if you're taking daily saunas, you have short hair, so it's not so bad, but my hair gets dried out in the sauna. So that's why I came up with the organic sauna hat. So my hair doesn't get like dried out. And then, you know, you sweat even faster. And, you know, I was just visiting with some people that have a hyperthermic center. And you know how much they charge for hyperthermic sessions? So basically, you could get either the big or the small tent, but use the partitions with the drop ceiling, have the breeze safe in there and a sauna hat, and you are going to have your own hyperthermic treatment at home. I mean, this is just huge, you know. And they were saying, especially for the clients who've got leukemia, you know, systemic issues instead of spot treatment for hypothermia. But yeah, it's just a whole thing, you know, we have to look at. And then the thing that, you know, is a real passion of mine is back pain. In America, low back pain alone, that's not the neck problem, is $100 billion a year problem. But what people don't realize is you can't change muscle attachment points to the bone. And so when those muscles are tight, it's an emergency. The body's going, I don't want you to drift out of shape anymore. But then we're trying to loosen those muscles, everything we can to get rid of the pain, and we're not fixing our structure. And then do you realize how much energy your body's burning just to keep your body from falling flat and to keep your posture from drifting more? So how much less fatigue would you have if you had the proper curvature to exist in gravity? And I tell people, it's like, you know, people who aren't doing something to restore their curve, it's like eating candy and going to bed without flushing and brushing their teeth. You know, there's simple things that we can do every day. And so I'm coming out with a whole bunch of videos because it's a new thing. It's called spinal fitness. It's not CrossFit. It's not Pilates. It's not
we call
yoga.
it spinal hygiene. That's the old term. You know, I'm a chiropractor, and it's spinal hygiene is there's like people ignore it. Even chiropractors, we're like, you know, there's old school things actually that you should be teaching your patients to do. So they need us less and less. By the time they're coming into us, it's because you have like sleep hygiene. You know, you have horrible sleep hygiene, you have horrible spinal hygiene, you know, like
right.
This is what's going on. Your hygiene, period. It's not good. So yeah.
But yeah. It's fabulous with the new equipment. I went down to the Super Bowl and I met with UFC fighters and NFL players. And I always tell, give me 5 minutes and I'll give you 4 to 11 inches of reach. And so I go through, I have them bend over, you know, a lot of these UFC fighters can't even touch their fingertips to the ground. They're so stiff, you know, and they're hunched over from their fighting positions. And then I have them jump up. A lot of them will like land forward or backward. That is a sign of, you know, bad posture. I have them raise their hands, look. Hamstring, how tight are your hamstrings? Because when you're in neutral posture, it's zero effort of hamstring is where you want to be. So then I have them do a specialized sit up over a fulcrum called the power cushion that was originally used with the US Olympic team and the NFL teams by Dr. Scherger, who is the one who saved me after being ran over by a car. And then we do the pelvic tilt. And there's a video, there's a post with Cheeto, the UFC fighter. And then there's an after shot where he was like 2 inches from the ground. He couldn't touch his fingertips. And he's like reaching with half way down to almost putting his palms down. So he gained like about over 4 inches of reach in 5 minutes. And he's like going, oh my gosh, you know, it's like everybody. I had one guy that got 11 inches of reach. He's like a runner that just, you know, has a really low flat back, you know, but we have the neck shaper for the neck flexion, which actually, when done properly, induces low back curvature. A lot of people are saying, put your shoulders back. It's like, no, get the head position over the hips and your shoulders go back automatically, you know. And then we have these rolls, because Dr. Sugar used to teach me how to fold a towel where there was a groove in the middle so your spinous could float and the edges catch the transverse process, and you'd roll them and put them under your, you know, neck, and then 1 inch above the iliac for the low back. But after you did a spinal twist, so you can change the discs from like a sponge to a gel. Then when you lay over them, muscles relax and literally your bones will shift. And then the discs go back to a sponge state. So it encourages the posture. So we have the 5 different diameters for the neck and the back, and the 3 different densities. So I was doing videos on how to size people, and then how to get the neck size to encourage the curvature. So we have a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. You're one of those gadget. You're just a creator. It's really, I remember I've seen it. I'm like, so, and there's way more now. I'm like, wow, look at all this stuff she's got going on, you know. So I'm gonna explore a little bit, explore that website. But this was, I appreciate, Eileen, you spending the time teaching about all the differences of sauna and how the near infrared light you have and the red rays coming off what are pretty inexpensive bulbs, kind of a low tech thing that a lot of people want to overlook, and how potent and powerful it is. And I appreciate you so much for, you know, just continuing to upgrade the product and put quality and health, you know, first. And I'm glad your accountant told you, well, profit does matter, otherwise you're going to go out of business. So some people are a little surprised that there was an increase from what I had spent, but if you don't realize something's going to increase in price after 10 years, I'm not sure what to tell you. I tell everybody, like,
well, we have organic cotton now.
Yeah.
We have better zippers. I mean,
grounding,
bamboo thickness on the mats. You know, there's just so much stuff that we've improved.
Yeah, there's a big, it's like the beautiful commercial upgrade, really, even for, so I encourage, you know, business owners, chiropractic offices, yoga studios, wellness centers. You know, sauna is a great, you know, therapy that people are going into places to use, and they're always going with the same wooden things, you know, and it's like there's actually something better out there, but it's just new for them to realize it. They don't know about it, you know.
Right.
And so I hope some of my friends, you know, my colleagues who are looking at this, you understand better why I keep advocating for something that's not the most mainstream thing out there. And I do think it's better. I think it is the best choice, because I think you get better results in less time, you know.
Yeah,
and
actually,
less money.
If somebody would just try it, they'll never go back.
Every patient, they're like, oh my God, it's awesome. I'm like, I know. Why do you think I want to go in it every day? I planned my day today, like, ooh, when exactly am I doing the whole like exercise sauna thing? Where can I squeeze it in? Why to start early? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it later in the day. I like to start my day that way, but sometimes it's got to be a little bit later. So
right.
Thank you so much, Eileen. You guys, I'm going to drop my website link. I do make a small commission. I am an affiliate for this product. There's my disclosure. I've been selling it for years before that was even an option, because I believe in it. It is personally what I use and own every single day. And I stand behind that, and I'll have my link down there. If you got any benefit from this, I appreciate you. You don't pay any more, and you end up helping me a little bit. All right. Thanks, and have a good one.